Okay, we're recording. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Contour community meeting. Today is September 28th, and we're kind of short and stuff, but we're gonna discuss few stuff. Okay, I'm gonna share screen over here. Where is this one? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Was that okay? Okay.
Maybe make it like a touch bigger in the font if you could just
make the font bigger, like this.
Yep, that's good. Yep.
Cool. So today, one good announcement for the community. Tero Sarni joined us, and he's some words from his side. If you're interested, he works for Ericsson, so unofficially he'll represent Ericsson in our community. So welcome, Tero, though you're not in the call right now. But anyway, yeah. So with that,
yeah, just add up one thing. I know Tara's been a big part of Contour so far, adding a bunch of things. I know he was responsible for securing TLS between Envoy and Contour and doing rotation of certs and different things. So yeah, so we reached out and so happy to have another maintainer here on board.
Yep.
Yeah. So go ahead. I think Orlin, you've got the next one for the status.
Yeah. Today we had a very interesting discussion with Nick and Gary about restructuring a little bit of the homepage of the project that we came up with. Just to brief you, and then you can review maybe and share your the overall idea is to make the website look like more the Kubernetes website and to navigate pretty much the same way according to the documentation. So we're gonna reduce the top pages to getting started, documentation, community, and blog. And we're going to move the guides and resources under the resources which represent some kind of documentation of how to do stuff under documentation, and resources like recordings from KubeCon and other conferences will go under community. That's like the look and feel of the website. And then we're going to introduce some more stuff, technical, like we're going to version the upgrade document, because we were discussing that the upgrade document should be per version. So, for example, in the main, it will be the latest one, upgrade from the previous one to the latest one, and that will be inherited in the next version. So one step back will be the upgrade process, not the huge list. What do you think? That is what we think of will improve the documentation. Also, everything will be indexed. Hey, Sanjay. Hi. Everything will be indexed, so people trying to search something in the search field, it can land on the community documentation, the actual documentation, all the articles around the blogs even. So we'll be making the website a bit more user-friendly, let's put it this way.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think the guides could go away and just become part of docs, because there's no reason to make those a separate thing. I have another Google Doc from Abby, who's a tech writer here at VMware, that did another pass through of this that I'll forward to you all. I know she had some good feedback about, I mean, a lot of our documentation now is based on like what we call it in terms of Contour or in HTTP proxy speak, but it's hard for someone else to find that because they may not know what, if it's a request timeout or whatever it's called, you know what I mean? So having those features be more, or those menu items being more feature-based versus, more technical based, I guess, if that makes sense,
yeah.
to be able to find stuff. So yeah, I'll find that doc and I'll forward it over to you.
Yeah, and if you can link it into the issue, it would be great. So we can take some ideas from there.
Sure.
Yeah. So please check this stuff, and if you're okay with the changes, with Gary, we will create like a good first issues and stuff like this, and we're gonna distribute it across the docs working group, and I'll take some, and Gary will take some. So, yep, that's from my side. Steve K, you have this one.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention this since it came up today. So we had a Knative user report a kind of a performance regression with current versions of Contour. This is a user who has a very large number of services in their cluster. So, you can see in the description here, it's 1,000 Knative services, which results in 4,000 HTTP proxies. And they're just seeing that it's slower with the latest versions of Contour to add an incremental service than it was with Contour 1.8.1. So obviously it's a pretty big gap in versions. So I'm working on trying to track down where the performance issues are coming from. It seems like this really probably only affects users with really large numbers of services. The differences are pretty minimal with lower numbers of services. So hopefully it doesn't affect too many folks. I think, we got to figure out, is it just one change that caused the difference in performance, or is it a series of changes over time? We're not really sure. So just doing some benchmarking to try and track that down. But yeah, we just got this in 3 hours ago. So, really just digging into it now.
And he hit it with the new version and wasn't there. I haven't go over this one. Yeah, they noticed that using Contour 1.18.1 is slower than using Contour 1.8.1. So they haven't, sounds like they haven't been upgrading along the way. They just jumped 10 minor versions. So, it's not necessarily a new issue in 1.18.1. It could have been around since 1.9. So that's what we're trying to track down now. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the graphs, like the differences in processing time are quite minimal. If you have, less than 500 Knative services, which is like 2,000 HTTP proxies, it's only a handful of seconds in difference. It's really only when you get up towards 1,000 Knative services that you start to see significant differences in processing time. So,
does that Knative command that creates a service, does it wait for like the KN service create? Does that wait for the service to be ready before it continues?
Yeah. I think they expect Envoy to make sure that it got the configuration properly.
Yeah, I was looking at the Knative networking probing code, which just looks at all the endpoints and makes sure that like whatever ingress, Knative ingress you've configured, like makes a request to all those endpoints. So I imagine that's what that's doing to tell you that it's ready. But so it is completely serial. It's not like just creating 1,000 services and HTTP proxies and then later waiting for them to become ready. It is actually one like sequential.
Yeah, it's doing one at a time. It took me a little bit to figure that out, but actually I have the script running in my own cluster right now. So what they're saying is that after you've already created, say, 1,000 Knative services, adding a 1,000 first service is taking minutes. Like it takes minutes to process that incremental service. They're not saying that if you throw 1,000 at it all at once, that it's slow. So it's just as the total number of services in the cluster grows, they're observing that makes adding an incremental one significantly slower.
Is that that KN service create? Is KN like a Knative client kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I know when we did some of this work with Gimbal, when we created services with kube control, there's a client go or a rate limiting in kube control that you can set to allow you to create stuff faster. there's a default, I guess, both baked into kube control that you can change. I'm not sure if Knative may have that worked out already. So
Yeah, I think there's probably a much more efficient way for us as Contour to recreate these kinds of tests.
Yeah.
But since Knative provided the script for now, I'm just running it. But yeah, it's going to take probably a couple hours to run through this whole thing to generate 1,000 Knative services and wait for them all to be ready one by one.
Yeah, because it seems like it's kind of removing that client rate limit from the equation, because it's then checking the creation timestamp against when it becomes ready. So it's not necessarily even the client creating things that's slowing things down, which is actually kind of makes it a good test. Assuming that creation timestamp and everything are not just, well, I don't know, not like nonsense. Assuming that Kubernetes is doing things correctly, which I assume it is. But
yeah, it really should be measuring like from the time it persists in the API server when it's created to the time that the Knative service is ready to serve traffic. And I guess given that there is a Knative component to this, like I'm not yet ruling out that there's a Knative issue, but it seems like maybe they've done it holding the Knative version constant and just changing the Contour version and seeing the differences, which would certainly point to it being a change in Contour.
Yeah.
And I assume too, there's an Envoy upgrade as well in the mix. Not to point the finger at Envoy, but compare apples to apples everywhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
If that might have something too as well.
Yeah, I do have one hunch as to what might be causing it, but I'm not going to throw out random guesses because I don't actually have any data to support it yet. So I'll collect some more data and can add notes.
So yeah, for the performance, for the kind of XDS incremental and Mac issue, I was mostly doing things with having I guess this is kind of the same thing now that I realized that it's completely sequential, but this might be a good test instead of trying to create a complicated scenario where we have a bunch of churn in the cluster and then checking that some update within that churn happens within a certain amount of time. Maybe this is just an even easier test at scale to do. Maybe I was thinking once we kind of, Steve, definitely keep going on if you're interested in investigating this, but maybe I was thinking of turning this into a test that we can run. I don't know, it doesn't have to be on every commit, but maybe a nightly test. Or I guess we gotta procure a cloud environment to run it on, but
yeah, there's an issue from Matt Moore created back in April. There's a whole other suite of tests that Knative has that we were looking at potentially running on Knative infrastructure or on Contour infrastructure. That found this the last time.
Yeah, I was thinking it would be good to do our own so we can separate everything out completely, because like I assume that Contour is running in the cluster on the same nodes as where all the apps are running, and Envoy is running, and maybe if they're running a test in the cluster, then that's running on some of those nodes as well. So we can completely isolate everything. Then might be easier for us to find diffs in when we change code. But this seems like a really simple thing that we should try to improve on, right? Whether it's just the aggregate of a bunch of changes over time that have caused it, or if it's a specific thing. Bringing this down, I'm sure using incremental XDS, this is should be simple theoretically. If it's not something else, could be a simple way to benchmark that incremental SDS is improving things.
Yeah, right now, we have, if you make a change to the core DAG processing pipeline, you have no way of knowing whether you introduced a major performance issue or not, other than just kind of anecdotal observation of it. So yeah, I think getting something like this stood up and just running it nightly and looking for big changes, I think, gets us a long way. I care less about what the absolute performance is,
exactly.
and more that we're not significantly degrading performance over time.
Mhm. And this is a good test of maybe this test would go away after a while, but this is a good maybe starting benchmark test just to see like then maybe we can make it more complicated in the future, but starting test of like, okay, when you like how long do things take? And then once we're happy with that, maybe then we can make it more complicated. Because yeah, I think I've been trying to make things a little bit too complicated to start. And this is actually a really simple thing in the wild that someone has shown is kind of maybe problematic. So
Yeah, I mean, I think if you took Knative out of this equation, the contour version would just be like create 1,000 services and then create the 1,000 first and see how long it takes the 1,000 first to basically result in Envoy serving traffic for it.
And that's
yeah,
the
and I
part we don't
wonder.
have.
Oh, sorry, go.
No, so that's the part we don't have is the like validating that the Envoy got the config properly, you know. And this happened before, and I know in the Slack thread I was asking about the cold start because this happened once where like an Envoy was connected to a contour that restarted, and then it got half of its config and sent that down to Envoy, which essentially broke the config that was running. Do you know what I mean? Because it only had half of the code processed. So then it destroyed routes and then got the rest of it and then put them back. That was a different issue for a different user, I remember. But, go ahead.
Yeah, these are some good tests that we can add. So like we can do this test, definitely. Maybe a cold start test where you create a bunch of stuff and then start contour and see how long things take to update. And then maybe you like you said, with the kind of crash in the middle idea, like create a bunch of stuff with contour running and then stop contour and start it. I don't know, something where you need to, I guess the state of the world, you might need to figure it out and send it. You can't just do incremental there where you kind of crash and start over again. But yeah, I don't know. So yeah, once I'm done with my like cookie rewriting thing, I was thinking about turning that issue report into like a test that we can run. I don't know if Steve K, you're already doing something like that, or if you're just running the reproduction, but
Yeah, for now, I'm just running what they gave us, but definitely be nice to turn it into a contour test.
Okay. Anything else to discuss? No. Okay. In that case, I think we can close for today. Someone will respond. By the way, what's the process of responding to these kind of issues? Do we have like a agreed on time frame to respond, or at least to notify that we are testing something?
Yeah, we were actually discussing this one over Slack, so that's why there hasn't been any discussion on the issue itself, but I'll add a comment here just to make that publicly accessible.
Yeah. And one question from my side about this, there's no information about the actual cluster size, or I'm missing this one. I missed to find it.
If you look at the script, the script is creating a 10 node cluster that has a machine size in there. So yeah.
Okay.
I think there was a report from a user, and then this is a Knative maintainer who is reproducing it using a Knative script that they have. So there's kind of a level of translation in here.
Okay. Yeah, just trying to combine the whole information to me. Okay. Thanks. Right. Okay. Then we can close. Have a nice rest of the day, folks, and talk to you soon.
Take care. See ya.
Bye.
Take care.